Governance, the way we define it, is how business makes its decisions and how it handles conflict. What we've learned over time in most successful businesses, they default to a collaborative approach in their decision making. In other words, there's well-defined homes for each decision. Decision making is decentralized. It's not centralized into one person or entity. So that helps. And that decision maker is responsible for it. They seek out input from subject matter experts. And what happens is when family members, they think they're doing the right thing by protecting the other person. They don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or they don't want to address a difficult issue that could be sensitive for somebody. What that does is that creates the old elephant in the room. You don't want to confront what real issues are. So what we like to do is build what we call a barrier escalation process. We structure it, we help the organization feel comfortable escalating issues or barriers so it can get resolved. Well, this is a good time to think about having perhaps an advisory board or maybe a governing board. That's usually a good place to escalate these issues where there's dispute between the shareholders. If they don't have that in place, then we just need to define how we're going to do tie breaking and decide that before there's conflict, before there's an issue. And that way it becomes a little bit more automatic if there is necessary to have a tiebreaker. Then you're going to maintain your relationships with your family members. Your employees are going to feel a lot more comfortable that they can also, non-family members can escalate issues. It's going to keep the business moving forward. If you're not comfortable in dealing with conflict in a business, that's when businesses become paralyzed.
So what would you say to a family member who worries that governance will make things feel cold and corporate and take the family business heart out of it?
This is one of those situations where you don't know how something's going to play out. And so you make a ton of assumptions, like if this happens and this happens and this happens. And governance allows you to just be like, yes, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Recognize the shift there. If this happens, then this happens. There's not the panic. It's not the, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then what if this happens? You get real clarity on this is how we're going to structure this. This is how we're going to make decisions. This is how we're going to decide if we need to change how we make decisions. And everyone is clear on that. And you make it challenging to change that, right? Also, as well, when you're setting all of this up.
Yeah, think about it this way. Governance is all about setting up the rules of how you're going to handle difficult decisions, how you're going to handle different opinions, and you set those rules up before you ever get to that. So they're set up unemotionally. And then when you get into the heat of the conversation, you now know how, that's what Brandi was talking about. Well, here's the structure of how we're going to elevate this issue, how we're going to discuss the issue, and how we're going to make a decision, the approach. We hear that a lot, Price, about, well, I don't want to be corporatized or too professionalized. I don't want to take the heart of our business. Honestly, governance does the opposite of that. It actually makes things safer for non-family members to have a voice in the company, as well as family members, siblings, children to also have an equal voice at the table. And then they can bring these issues up. At the same time, they can actually build on relationships, not damage relationships. So they're pretending to be family driven and be relationship oriented, but underneath the water, they're not happy, and relationships are being harmed. It's quite opposite by putting in governance in a family business to what some family business owners perceive what governance is. And I think if we can take that myth out of their head and show them that, well, actually, you're going to make decisions faster. You're going to have higher level of accountability, which increases the trust in the organization. And you're going to get more involvement and input from not only family members, but also non-family members in helping the business be successful at achieving what its term desires are to be.